Well, our next guest is a social media sensation, born out of the woke storm, and she's a regular contributor to GB News, Aussie TV and Sky. Would you welcome Sophie Corcoran? Sophie, you're welcome. Glad you made it.
Thank you. Firstly, I just want to say thank you so much for having me. It's such a privilege to be in such wonderful company with so many people that have some bloody common sense. Because I spend my life at university with people that have none. So it is wonderful to be amongst such great people. But there is no secret, my friends, that it is my generation that are pushing this nonsense. So therefore, it is also my generation and people like me that will solve it.
Yes.
This so-called progressive new world, it's not progressive at all. So at the moment we've got women who, we're not allowed to call ourselves women. We can't have our own bathrooms without having a man in it. We can't have our own prisons without having men in it. We can't have our own sports without having men in it. In actual fact, we can't have our own trophies and our own awards and our own categories without having men in it. It's so bizarre how young girls are effectively being able to be raped and be silenced because their skin colour is not the right one to upset the woke masses. And bizarrely, we've got this return of almost the apartheid. Recently, universities, I've seen it in my university, in Westminster University, and in the university that my sister is attending, that are having black-only sessions, whether it's black-only sessions for Black History Month, or last year they had a black-only sessions for netball. So we've got racial segregation back. So we've gone backwards on women's rights, we've gone backwards on the Me Too movement, we've gone backwards on racial rights, and now we have this green agenda that is effectively destroying the lives of the working class people, that will effectively mean that working class people will eventually no longer be able to drive, we will no longer be able to go on holiday, we will no longer be able to live good lives, while the rich people can do whatever the hell they want. Because when I was in Davos, the very first thing I did was go and find that private jet airport. I went there because these are the people that are telling me that my once-a-year trip, if I'm lucky, to Benidorm, which nobody can afford right now because the agenda they're setting means we can't afford to go, but if I'm lucky and we get to go to Benidorm, is somehow the cause of climate change. But these people go and fly to get their hair cut, to do whatever they want. They own multiple cars while telling me I can't own a car. They eat these massive, ludicrous meals while telling me that I should somehow eat bugs. Ridiculous. And yet they want us to believe that we're the problem. So we've gone back on class division as well. So not only of that, women have no rights, racial segregation is back, class segregation is back, the poor are getting poorer. This is what they call progressive. And I do not want any part in this so-called progressive world. But not only do I want no part, my friends, I will make sure that my kids, my future kids, your future grandchildren, your future great-grandchildren, do not inherit a world where if you are a woman, if you are white, if you are a young girl, if you are working class, that you do not get to live as good of a life because they want to please these woke elites. That is not progress. People like me embody progress. We want the working class to do better. We want ambition, we want aspiration, we want equality, we want women to be able to have rights. But we are the people that are labelled as racists, classists, homophobes, misogynists, when in actual fact, it's them. But there's been a lot of doom and gloom in this conference, and rightly so, because the world is absolute bloody chaos, let's not lie. However, the tides are turning. The Tavistock has closed. Universities are no longer allowed to just displace and dispose of their lecturers or their students if they say something they disagree with. Free speech is returning because we have people fighting for it. Women's rights are returning. The argument for against, the complete madness of this 54 genders, anybody with a penis can come into anything you want. People are saying enough is enough. And that is because of you. And that is the fact. When we are together, we succeed. The one thing that really winds me up is I can't do all of this on my own. And some people say, well, Sophie, there's a silent majority. There's a silent majority. Well, there comes a point where the silent majority can no longer afford to be silent anymore. Because at the moment, this minority, really annoying, largely chaotic and stupid minority, are calling the shots. While the majority, who should be calling the shots, are sitting back there and watching. And nobody would be afraid to speak if everybody spoke. We wouldn't have people being thrown out of their jobs. We wouldn't have uni students being thrown out of their universities if everybody spoke. And when everybody does speak, we've seen it with PayPal recently, we've seen it with the Tavistock, we've seen it with universities. When everybody speaks, we win. You guys started this, and there are many people in my generation that will continue it, I promise you. But there is no time for fear anymore, because when the house is on fire, which it is, you can't be scared. So everybody has to speak up, speak out, and speak for common sense. You guys have done it. I admire you greatly. So keep going, and we will win, because let's be honest, we are winning. For the first time, we are actually winning. And I feel very hopeful that we will resume a normal society and that our children will not have to grow up in some wacky world where the elites rule, division is everywhere, and it will get better. I'm actually very confident about that, and I just wanted to share that bit of hope with you all, because we've had a lot of doom and gloom, rightly so, but we're getting there. And that's because you guys keep doing what you're doing. So just keep it up. Thank you very much. My generation will keep fighting on beside you, but yeah, I just wanted to say thanks. Other than that.
Brilliant. Wasn't that great? Wasn't that great?
So, Sophie, your speech, absolutely brilliant. You just said something to me now before we were recording, how you just make that up on the spot. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it's just important to speak from the heart. Some people are so over-rehearsed, and it's quite obvious. I just say it how it is. Am I the most polished politician? No, but I mean what I say.
Yeah. And I think that's really important, and it absolutely shows, if you believe in what you were saying, you can just reel it off. And the speech was brilliant. Your time in Davos then, we've seen little clips of it. For the guys who may not have seen it, how would you sum it up? What was your experience like in Davos?
It was really bizarre. So the entire town was fake. I felt like I was in the strangest horror movie of my life. I genuinely felt so depressed and wanted to go home. It was horrid. But it was also great, obviously a great opportunity. But it was weird. There is no other word to sum it up than weird.
Well, I got that feel just from the videos, so I can imagine what it's like actually in person. Now, it is very much linked in now with, obviously what's going on in Davos, what a lot of people have spoken about today, and it is how the youth. You mentioned in your speech as well how it's your generation that kind of need to kickstart it and keep it going. There's going to be a lot of people who are scared to say kind of what needs to be said. You don't have that problem at all. So what type of advice would you give anybody who sees what's going on and is concerned but are too fearful to call it out?
Well, to be fair, it's such a difficult thing to overcome, because although, yes, I'm not afraid to speak my mind, the amount of abuse I get is challenging, and a lot of people just don't want that, and you're always going to get that. So I can't really force young people to speak. But it's really odd when I go to university and I speak to people, and I can sort of tell, and as soon as I say I'm right wing, they're like, oh, thank God. And it's not one or two, it's many, many people. There are so many students who are like, oh, thank God, I can say what I want to say. And they're so shy and so scared when they talk. And then when they realise that I'm right wing, they're like, that's it. Barrier's gone. But they are terrified. And it's so obvious. And it's quite nice for me being at my university to be that sort of reassuring person. I did it at Durham, I did it at Queen Mary, and I do it across the country, that students are becoming more and more right wing because they're not really scared anymore. They see me as a reassuring figure. I take all the heat, so they don't have to. And that gives them freedom. I think that, I have, not to toot my own horn, but there's a lot of students that have, spoken about this before, but not actually really achieved anything. For me, I've got, diversity trainings canned. I've put universities on the front pages of newspapers, and I feel like I've really revolutionised the movement between right-wing students that we actually need. That the likes of Turning Point and stuff tried to do, but it didn't actually really achieve.
Yeah, no, and that is really comforting to you, because when people think of university students, college, it's very left-wing, and if you dare step out the line, you get hammered. So it puts a lot of people off. I think the students and seeing what you're saying and seeing on social media the abuse that you get, is it worth it?
No, no, it is, but it's difficult. I think the reason why I've had the influence is because young people look for figures like Greta Thunberg, and almost in a way what we have to do in order to get the right, for the young people to unite around the right, we need to create somebody of the stature of Greta Thunberg on the right. And I feel like a lot of people see the opportunities that I've been given and the stuff that I do and feel like, actually no, I agree with this, like we can do that. And that's the reason why they like Greta Thunberg, is because they love this celebrity culture, and that isn't there in the right. And now, because I'm such a figure, I do a lot of stuff in Australia, I do a lot of stuff in the United States, I do a lot of stuff nationally. I think young right-wing people are starting to get that same vibe that they got with Greta Thunberg with me. So. Well,
it's exciting to watch, it absolutely is, when you see someone like yourself who is prepared to go the distance, because that's what a lot of the problem is people talk the talk, they don't walk the walk. You most certainly do, and you do a fantastic job. Sophie, thank you very much for jumping on with us. Cheers, thank you.